For watching us tonight. Confusion over protecting America. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Former President Jimmy Carter, an avowed liberal man, not considered a warrior by anyone, said this in Atlanta Tuesday night.
I think we need to attack ISIS. I'm really concerned about them. Is the bombing of ISIS justified? I say yes. And I hope that President Obama has every possible success in getting allies to join with us, some with ground troops that are effective inside Syria.
Well, that's about as hawkish as I've ever heard Mr. Carter, who generally does not like confrontation, even though he has a military background as a naval officer. And then there's Secretary of State John Kerry. Confronted by Code Pink demonstrators, Kerry called out the peace group.
Code Pink was started by a woman and women who were opposed to war, but who also thought that the government's job was to take care of people. You ought to care about fighting ISIL, because ISIL is killing and raping and mutilating women. And they believe women shouldn't have an education. They sell off girls to be sex slaves to jihadists. There is no negotiation with ISIL.
Now, I have always wondered about the anti-war people who will allow the worst atrocities to take place, but still cloak themselves in moral garments. Last night on The Factor, both Alan Colmes and Dennis Kucinich said they would have allowed ISIS to kill the innocent people stranded in northern Iraq and thousands of Kurds as well. You remember, only U.S. bombing saved those people, and Colmes and Kucinich flat out reject any U.S. military action against ISIS. That seems strange to me. They're good guys. Colmes and Kucinich are good guys. But how can you let innocent people die when you can save them? Especially when the group committing the murder is committed to killing you. As a historian, I well know that failing to stop evil leads to more evil. Hitler could have been taken out earlier. But the Peace for Our Time crowd, led by British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, failed to confront the Fuhrer. And look what happened. But let's get back to Jimmy Carter. Whenever you have a guy like that convinced the country's being threatened, you got to take it seriously. Even Yoko Ono has to know. Mr. Carter is a give peace a chance kind of guy. But now he wants to destroy ISIS. And you know what? He's right. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight. The House of Representatives has voted 273 to 156 to support a bill that provides for training Syrian rebels to fight ISIS. The Senate voted 78 to 22 to approve it as well. Joining us now from Washington, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, who voted for the bill, and Congressman Sean Duffy from Wisconsin, who voted against it. Both are Republicans. So, Mr. Duffy, please explain your vote.
Hey, listen, Bill, I don't trust the president to vet the Syrian rebels. His foreign policy has been a disaster. You look at what he's done in Egypt and in Libya and Iran. Without being able to put together an effective strategy to vet in those regions, I don't trust that he's going to be able to vet in Syria. So I voted no, not only for that, but also other reasons in regard to this president's heart isn't in the fight. He gave a 14-minute speech, and he's done everything to tell America what he won't do to win. Like, I'm not going to put ground troops in, but he'll say I'm going to do some airstrikes. That strategy is not going to be sufficient to wipe these guys out.
Is there anything that President Obama could have said or done that would have persuaded you to support his campaign against ISIS? Anything?
Absolutely. We are going to put every ounce of American military power behind the defeat of ISIS.
All right, so if you were more
coalition of people.
If you were more hawkish, you would have voted yes. Okay.
And the reason is, Bill, I think that you're able to save American troops from going in if you're strong on them today. It's the weakness that's going to bring the American troops in later.
It's a matter of how you get them. So, Ms. Blackburn, you voted for. Do you trust that President Obama has a plan that can be effective?
I don't, but I sure do trust the men and women in uniform in the command team. And Bill, I represent Fort Campbell, a major military post, and talking with some of the current and former commanders, I found that it was important to them, to the men and women in uniform, to have the beginnings of a strategy, something that would give a defined mission. The president so far has not done that. Every single step he's taken, he has come up short. This is just the first step, and I'm not sure the president has the leadership skills to make this happen.
All right, but look, you know, what the House and the Senate approved is training about 5,000 guys in Syria. They'll probably be trained in Saudi Arabia, and then they'll come back. It doesn't really have anything to do with us as far as our military, other than we will provide a lot of the training. So I'm thinking back to President Bush, Ms. Blackburn.
Yes.
When he wanted to surge, Barack Obama and a lot of people were opposed to that. All right, they were opposed to it because they didn't trust George W. Bush, because he got into Iraq and it didn't go his way, and now he wanted to double down, and they said, no, he's incompetent, he can't do it. And it turned out that the president pulled it out of the fire. Is it possible that Barack Obama's strategy could show the same results?
My hope is that Barack Obama will develop a strategy and that he will begin to listen to the commanders that are out there. He did not do that when we came out of Iraq. He avoided every single thing they told him to do.
But you're doing this on a hope, right? You're doing this on a hope. Because I don't see any signs at all.
I'm doing this to support the men and women in uniform.
Yeah, I don't see any signs at all President Obama is ever going to be even as hawkish as Jimmy Carter. Now, Mr. Duffy, when you vote no, that means that for the short term, there wouldn't be any action taken against ISIS. So if you're not going to, put the resources into at least some people on the ground fighting them, they still have pretty much free reign unless the planes can find them, which is not easy.
Well, the hope would be that the president would come back with a stronger strategy and rhetoric. But if you listen to John Kerry, you played the clips, and even President Carter, they get how serious this is. And the president's doing this tip the toe in the water policy. And I think, Bill, this is just politics. I think the president saw his poll numbers dropping, and he thought he had to come out with a strategy on Syria, and he did as little as possible to get the American people off his back. And it's a strategy that won't work. And my hope is he'll actually listen to some of the left-wing guys in his party to actually get some gumption to come out and talk about how we're going to actually defeat this this cancer that's growing in the Middle East.
I hope he listens to the military command team.
So do I.
They came up with the surge, and I think that the way this is structured, Bill, the authorization requires the DOD to come to us before they do any reprogramming or take any movements. And this may be one of those cases where DOD, the command team, and the House have to take the leadership role, and then the president may find himself leading from behind. He needs to speak to the coalition. He needs to define this mission. He needs to speak to our allies, and so far he has not been able to do that, and I'm not sure he ever will. The point is, we have to annihilate ISIS, and somebody's got to get busy on this. This is not the step I would like to have taken. I would like to see us be much more aggressive, but it is the first step, and we're going to have to lead him to do his job on behalf of the American people and on the cause of freedom.
All right, you guys, we appreciate you. I got to run, Congressman Duffy, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time out tonight. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.